Harry, today's topic is going to be on politics and the Christian faith. We're going to start off in Exodus 3, verse 9 and 10. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.
Yeah, God is sending Moses to Pharaoh. In the Old Testament, the people of God were a separate community that needed God, but also needed a political structure and have to deal with their neighboring communities, politics everywhere. So, yes, if we want to see the church and politics at work, read the Old Testament. It is everywhere. Moses did his job, and Pharaoh obeyed God and Moses. Could you read Jeremiah 31, 33, and 4?
Yeah, it says, "This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, 'Know the Lord,' because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more."
God had a plan for a new covenant with Jeremiah. That's about 500 years before Jesus came. And that would be written on our hearts and minds. And that is what Jesus gave us. When we come to the New Testament, God has no grandchildren. Individually, we become a child of God by adoption. We recognize our sin and realize that what Jesus offers is what we want in our lives. As a child of God in the New Testament, we are as helpless as sheep among wolves and realize our safety comes from the Good Shepherd. Politics is never used by the Jesus people. We read that Herod wanted to meet Jesus. He finally did on the day Jesus was crucified. As much as Herod wanted to talk to Jesus, Jesus refused to say a word. Jesus was here to do his Father's will and work, which on this day was to die for our sins. When Jesus sent out the 12 disciples to preach and heal, Jesus told them to not even visit with people on the way. They had no dollars to even pay for their board. If they were rejected, don't even complain. Leave and go to the next town. And that is how Paul traveled. Each town he came to, he found a few people that wanted what he offered. Sometimes a few weeks, and then they offered to kill him. He left through the night and was in the next town. Could you read Acts 24, 26, and 7?
At the same time, he was hoping that Paul would offer him a bribe, so he sent for him frequently and talked with him. When 2 years had passed, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, but because Felix wanted to grant a favor to the Jews, he left Paul in prison.
Yeah, politics at work here. The Jews, he wanted to keep them happy. Felix, and yeah, he liked talking to Paul, and he thought if a little money was coming, he could maybe figure something out. That's what it's all about. So Paul was in prison for 2 years for no good reason, except that this too was the will of God. For 2 years, Paul was writing letters and helping many churches, and also those same letters for us to read today. That's God's will. At the same time, Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke. That alone was worth the wait. Even though walking with Jesus is not easy, it really is simple. We do our part. That's all we have to do, and God does his. And as we take up our burden daily and follow him, our lives are so beautiful. As we ponder the insanity around us, remember that he, God, is on the throne. His will is done, and his people, unseen to the world, are making the difference.
For sure. And it's another thing too, Harry, is it's such a distraction, right? It's a never ending rabbit hole. There'll be new stuff that happens tomorrow and after that. And it's more time that we're not focused on heavenly things or missing the mark of Jesus at that point.
Yeah, politics is a very frustrating sport. It just doesn't really ever get anywhere. Whereas the gospel, we're about souls. We're not about trying to change the world. We're trying to change people to get them to know Christ. And if they get to know Christ, that alone will change the world because God's people are the salt of the earth and the light of the earth. And that's what we need to be.
Amen. Thanks a lot for this, Harry.
Thank you.